All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this village board meeting to order on Monday, November 5th, 2018. We're very honored and pleased to have with us tonight the combined color guard from American Legion Post 208 and VFW Post 981, who are here to help us remember Veterans Day, which is coming up this Sunday, November 11th, but also to help honor and celebrate the 100th anniversary of our Memorial Day parade here in the village of Arlington Heights. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes, but it's reflected by the poster that you see up here. We're going to be honoring that anniversary on our village vehicle sticker for 2019. And so we, again, are so pleased to have the Combined Color Guard with us tonight, and so I'd ask them to lead us in the presentation of the colors and the Pledge of Allegiance. Gentlemen?
All rise, please. On guard, head, hut. Right, hey. Left time, hut. Rifleman, hut, huh. Forward, huh. Prepare to post colors. Post. Freeze it. Huh.
We will now say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, huh. Left, huh. Left time, huh. Forward, huh. Mark time, left, halt, left, huh. Order, huh. Parade, huh. Dismissed.
Well, let's give these gentlemen a well-deserved round of applause. And the audience can please be seated. And that is certainly a round of applause for a job well done, not only this evening, but for many, many years over the course of their military careers in the defense of freedom and our great country. So thank you, gentlemen, again for joining us tonight. We move on then in the agenda to roll call. Becky?
Trustee Glasgow?
Here.
Trustee LaBedz? Here. Trustee Tinaglia?
Here.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Here.
Trustee Scaletta?
Here.
Trustee Sidor?
Here.
Trustee Blackwood? Here. Trustee Baldino? President Hayes?
Here. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, and we have 2 minutes to approve tonight. The first is from the Committee of the Whole meeting from October 1st, 2018. Are there any changes or passes?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Trustee Blackwood, second by Trustee Rosenberg. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, the minutes from the village board meeting from that same evening, October 1st. Any changes or passes?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee LaBedz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we move on to the approval of the accounts payable, and I'd call on Trustee Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd move approval of the warrant register with a date of October 15, 2018, in the amount of $4,090,000, $766.84.
Second.
Got a motion to approve the first set by Trustee Rosenberg, second by Trustee Glasgow. Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Sidor,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Trustee Rosenberg?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd move approval of the warrant register with a check date of October 30th, 2018, in the amount of $3,285,628.42.
Second.
Another motion by Trustee Rosenberg, seconded by Trustee Glasgow. Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? If not, roll call.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Sidor,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Well, next we move on to recognitions and presentations, and we do have three very special presentations tonight. And the first is the 2018 Disability Employment Awareness Award, being awarded tonight to Culver's Restaurant by the Commission for Citizens with Disabilities. I'd like to welcome the village's Commission for Citizens with Disabilities here, who will be presenting the 2018 Disability Employment Awareness Award. The Commission's Disability Employment Awareness Award is presented in recognition of October as National Disability Employment Awareness Month. The U.S. Department of Labor is celebrating National Disability Employment Awareness Month throughout the month of October. The Department's Office of Disability Employment Policy previously announced the month-long theme as America's Workforce, Empowering All. National Disability Employment Awareness Month is a time to recognize the importance of ensuring all Americans can access good, family-sustaining jobs, said the U.S. Secretary of Labor, Alexander Acosta. Americans with disabilities bring skills, talent, and dedication to our nation's workforce. Job creators who hire Americans with disabilities benefit from their expertise and perseverance, gaining a competitive edge. The history dates back to 1945, when Congress declared the first week in October each year as National Employ the Physically Handicapped Week. In 1962, the word physically was dropped to acknowledge individuals with all types of disabilities. In 1988, Congress expanded the week to a month and changed the name to a National Disability Employment Awareness Month. When the department established the Office of Disability Employment Policy in 2001 and was charged with naming the annual theme. So I'd like to introduce now the chairman of our Commission for Citizens with Disabilities, Roxanne Calabrero. Roxanne, if you come forward.
Microphone. Thank you, Mayor Hayes. Am I close enough to the microphone?
You're good.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I am pleased to be here and to represent the Commission for Citizens with Disabilities. It is both an honor and a privilege for us to come here once each year to present this award to an employer in the village who steadfastly recruits, trains, and employs people with disabilities. This is a wonderful undertaking, and it gives people with disabilities an opportunity to work amongst other people in the workforce and to prove that they are valuable and honorable employees. Once people are there and employed, they find that they are dedicated, loyal, and are willing to do many, many tasks and to learn when they are given the opportunity to be trained properly on a job. We have several members of our commission here with us tonight. Maybe they could raise their hands so you can see who they are. Thank you. We are honored to present tonight our 10th award. We started presenting these awards in 2009. My quick looking over of the previous recipients tells me that a lot of them are food-related. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but it seems to come out that way, that more than half of them have gone to either grocery stores or restaurants or food-related establishments. So it's a good place for people to work, apparently. Tonight, we are honored to recognize Culver's on Northwest Highway, right here in Arlington Heights, not too far away. Many of us have been there. I was there on one of those warm, early October evenings. It felt like summer. It was great. And I was very happy to be greeted warmly. They recognized my guide dog as a guide dog, not just a dog, and treated us with great respect and made sure that we had everything that we needed once we were seated. The whole party got everything that they needed. Everything was neat and clean, and the dog did not even get anything off the floor as a treat. I am pleased right now to honor this wonderful establishment, and I found out by talking to them a little while ago at a reception that Culver's has, I believe, two people with disabilities at this location, and at other stores they also have two people working at each location, which means that they nationally have made a decision to actively recruit and employ people with disabilities. That is a wonderful thing, and I hope they can carry this on. In their application for this award, it was stated that they wish they had more jobs that they could give. So I'm going to invite Culver's to come forward and receive their award and make a few remarks. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Who's going to make the,
I am. Sorry, I have
sorry.
a wee little voice. On behalf of Culver's, we would like to say thank you for being honored. When we were nominated for this award, we were humbly honored, but we were truly humbled when we were selected to receive the award. We don't do this to win awards. We do this so that they have a productive member of the community and that they are able to feel better about themselves and be recognized is wonderful for them as well as us.
thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Oh, congratulations. Come you all come forward. Forward if you would. Roxanne, if we could have all members of the commission come forward for a picture, if you would. Beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Again, congratulations. Congratulations.
Okay, we're going to take a couple of pictures. Okay, 1, 2, 3. We'll do one more. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Okay. Congratulations again. Thank you. Well, next on the agenda is another very special presentation. It's the 2018 Arlington Heights Cultural Arts Award. The Cultural Arts Award celebrates achievements by outstanding artists or groups of artists in Arlington Heights who have created a substantial body of work in their field. The goal of the award is to assist in building on the sense of pride in the community, in the village, and among local artists in particular. To present the award this evening, we are pleased to be joined by the chairman of our Arts Commission, Janet Sidor. Janet, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. The recipient of the 2018 Cultural Arts Award is the Arlington Heights Community Concert Band. The group dates back to November 1979, when 3 musicians noticed an ad in the Daily Herald calling for the forming of a community band. These musicians soon met with the Arlington Heights Park District Cultural Arts Supervisor and founded what is now known as the Arlington Heights Community Concert Band. By January 1980, the band's 8 players were rehearsing in the basement of the Olympic Swim Center with music borrowed from High School District 214. As the band grew in members and expertise, the group realized they needed an experienced conductor. Louis Layson conducted the band from April 1980 until his retirement in 1995. The growing band has played under the direction of Marvin Koch from 1995 to 2006, Adam Laspada from 2006 to 2012, Mark Hengish from 2012 to 2016, and the current conductor is Mike Madonia. That first year, the band performed in the Memorial Day and 4th of July celebrations, parades, and that's a tradition now that the members still proudly participate in every year. The Arlington Heights Community Concert Band has dedicated its time to performing free concerts for the community, 4 outdoor and 4 indoor. For its final indoor concert, every year the band hosts a food drive for the township. In spring 2018, they collected over 300 pounds of food. The Arlington Heights Community Concert Band has grown to over 65 dedicated volunteer musicians of all skill levels and ages, including 2 founding members, Janet Curto and Russell Putz. Every band member has their own story as to what they like about being a band member. What started as a small group of local musicians sharing their love for music has now grown to members of all generations, including District 214 high school graduates and family members who travel in from Chicago and surrounding communities to be a part of the band's musical family. The partnership with District 214 Community Education provides the band with much needed support and a home for rehearsals and indoor concerts. As volunteers, they rehearse every Wednesday night throughout the year with a short break in the summer and after the holiday concert, and then they start again at the beginning of the year. Together, they do what makes them happy in music and share this joyful noise with the community. Here to accept the award on behalf of the group are Arlington Heights Community Concert Band President Judy Shimkus and its conductor, Mike Madonia. We also have other members present, and if they would like to please stand up. Okay, thank you. By the way, I'm presenting this on behalf of the 8 members of the Arlington Heights Commission and our liaison, Derek Mock. Members here tonight are Tony Higgins-Thrash, Kristen Schertz, John Walsh, Sarah Galla, and our newest member, Kristen Walter.
Janet, you want to present it up here?
Yeah. Okay.
Come on up. Why don't we have all the band members come up if you would, and also the Arts Commission. Good to see you again.
you.
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks, congratulations. Let's have all the Arts Commission members up as well.
Gonna watch it tighter.
Okay,
Give the
just squeeze in
panoramic
just
shot.
a little bit. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Do one more. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Congratulations. I have to say that this group is very special to me. I had the honor and pleasure of attending their fall concert at Forest View Educational Center just a couple of weekends ago. And they did a presentation, a concert that was very special to me called National Pastime that honored the national pastime, my favorite sport, baseball. And they had some very special guests there, Wayne Messmer, representing the Chicago Cubs, and then the organist from the Chicago White Sox, Lori Moreland. And so it was just a great afternoon. The concerts are always sold out there. You don't charge for tickets, but the tickets are hard to get, believe me. And so I made sure I got mine early. But this group, the concert band, is such a great representative of this community, and we can't thank the conductor, and all of the members, the board, for all of the great work that they do representing our community throughout each year at a number of different events. And so again, congratulations on this well-deserved award, and we look forward to many, many years of great music from the Arlington Heights Community Concert Band. So, would you like to say a few words?
I'll never pass up a microphone. So the love for the music and playing in bands started long before I ever became the conductor. It was started in their junior highs and high schools, and for myself, I know that I was ready to quit when I was a youngster, and my dad made me stay in, and I'm glad he did, because I met my high school band director, and I am now what I am because of my high school band director. And the great Bob Marley used to say that he could infuse love and happiness through his music. And one night before a concert, a gunman came to his house and shot him, and he was just crazed. And a week later, he went to another concert, and someone said to him, says, "Why are you going?" He says, "Because the people who are crazy, that's going to stop them, but I have to keep trying." So every week we get up and we love to make music. We love to make people happy. We love to have people at our concert. And Mayor, I got to tell you, you're a good sport. When I introduced the mayor, I said, "Rahm Emanuel." And he played
I don't know if that's a promotion or a demotion.
And he was a good sport about it. So we had a great time, and Wayne and Lori did a wonderful job, and I'm so fortunate to have those kinds of connections. And I told everybody at the concert, I won the lottery when I was picked as the conductor for this group. So I was very, very happy. So thank you, Arlington, and thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jan. There you go. There you go. Thank you all. One more special presentation tonight before we move on, and that's to a very special person who's the producer of that picture over there. And to put it in perspective, I'd like to call up the chairman of our Veterans Memorial Committee, Greg Padavani, just to explain the reason for this sticker, this picture, and how it came about. Greg?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, trustees. As serving as the village's chairman of the Veterans Memorial Committee, I'm very honored and very grateful for what the support of not only the village and the Park District, but our entire community in supporting our veterans, and especially our fallen hero families. We have 58 young men from our town who have died in the service of our nation. Their names are always commemorated, not only on Memorial Day, but every day. If you go to the Veterans Memorial Park over just west of the library, one block west of the library, you can see their names in the bricks there. But this one coming up in May of 2019 is going to be a very special one for our village. It marks 1 century, 100 years since the homecoming parade of World War I that we had here in the village, welcoming home all of our World War I soldiers that had served our nation during that terrible war. It was a very interesting parade. When I looked it up in the archives of our historical society, I found a whole series of very beautiful photos showing the parade and all the people marching down Vale Street and over to Miller's Pond, actually, just behind the Village Hall here, where they had a ceremony and then a beer fest after that. They knew how to celebrate back then. But what I'd like to do is thank the village very much for kicking it off by starting it out with the photo, a beautiful photo of the combined color guard of Post 208 and Post 981 on the village sticker that people are probably now purchasing for their vehicles. And it'll remind everybody that this coming Memorial Day will be our 100th anniversary, and we want to make it special. We want to make sure that everybody in the village knows May 27th. Please reserve that day for the parade that starts at 9:30 and the ceremony at Memorial Park that starts at 11, because it's very important for not only our veterans who will be in the parade, but also our fallen hero families who will be there. Many of them will be there that day, about 15 usually that we have, 15 families. But this parade already has a quick start. We have 10 units who have signed up already, and some very interesting calls I'm getting from some military units that want to participate in our parade because they've heard about Arlington Heights and how wonderful our town is. So on behalf of all our veterans and especially our fallen hero families, I want to thank the village for starting this off, and you'll all probably see lots more of this coming up as the new year starts. And if anybody wants to participate in the parade, either as individuals or as a unit, it's free. Just watch for the announcements and the invitations that'll be coming out, and just join in to help us honor our veterans and especially our fallen heroes. And just because it's Veterans Day coming up, I wanted everybody to know that this Saturday, our village is having our 8th annual Veterans Breakfast over at the Lutheran Home in the St. John's Chapel. It's open to any veteran from anywhere, actually, and we have about 20 spots left out of the 225. Been a wonderful turnout. So all you have to do is call for reservations at 847-368-7400. That's the main number of the Lutheran Home. Call for reservations, and any veteran from anywhere can join us for that wonderful breakfast and the program that follows. Any questions for me while I'm here?
Well, thanks, Greg, and thank you for all that you do for the veterans in our community. I want to announce to our board and to all those in attendance tonight that Greg Padovani was recently selected as one of the Illinois Bicentennial Honor 200 recipients. And it's a very, very special honor, honoring those who have served our great country and who were honorably discharged and then went from there to serve their individual communities. And Greg is certainly well deserving of this very, very special award. Only 200 people throughout the state were recently selected, and we are very fortunate to have, in addition to Greg, 2 other Arlington Heights residents, Will Beiersdorf and Major General and State Representative David Harris. And in addition, honorary citizen Major General Jim Mukiyama. And so we're very happy for Greg. It's a well-deserved honor, and for Will and David and Jim as well. And so let's give a round of applause.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg. Cindy, if you come forward. Let me have you come on this side. Well, you may have seen Cindy and Bill and other members of the Arlington Heights Camera Club around town at various events, parades, ceremonies, you name it. The Citizens Police Academy graduation coming up next week, I believe. And so they're all around town, and they take some great photos. And so this is a product of one that Cindy Cuffle took, and so we're in representation of her great work, but also in representation of all the great work that the Camera Club has done for many, many years, and they're all volunteer hours. And so we very much appreciate your efforts that really help publicize all the great things that are going on in our great community. So Cindy, in recognition of your great work, and particularly this great photo that will bless all of our vehicles for next year, the Village of Arlington Heights thanks you, a member of the Arlington Heights Camera Club, for sharing your photography skills and talents with the village for the purpose of the 2019 Village Sticker. And whereas Cindy Cuffle's photo of the Memorial Day Parade captures the essence of the annual parade, which will be recognizing the 100th anniversary next year. The village is grateful to be able to use the photo as a way to promote the parade's 100th anniversary milestone. Whereas the design of the 2019 vehicle sticker is reflective of our community's identity, history, and pride. The village thanks Cindy and the Arlington Heights Camera Club for photographing many of our community events and for capturing images that showcase Arlington Heights as a great place to live. Now therefore, I, Thomas W. Hayes, Mayor of the Village of Arlington Heights, along with the Arlington Heights Village Board of Trustees, do hereby recognize Cindy Cuffle for her Memorial Day Parade photo featuring the 2019 vehicle sticker. The photo will be seen throughout the community, and it will serve as a wonderful promotion of the 100th anniversary of the Arlington Heights Memorial Day Parade. Congratulations, Cindy. Cindy, you want to say a few words? Yep.
Oh, I hate these things. As part of the Arlington Camera Club, we travel throughout Arlington Heights taking photos. We will be there on Saturday at the breakfast. It's an honor. My dad has been gone now for 3 years, and he was, or still is, a Marine from World War II who loved this parade. He would come in his scooter and sit while I photographed, and he would, it was an honor for the Boy Scouts to come up to him because he always wore his World War II Marine cap, and they would salute him and thank him for serving. And this parade is near and dear to my heart, and I thank Mayor and I thank the board for selecting my photo. And I tell my kids, they live in Arlington, I'll know where you are at all times. So thank you.
Congratulations. That is the end of our recognitions and presentations, so this would be a good time if you would care to leave. You're certainly welcome to stay for the rest of our agenda, but we thank you all for joining us on this very special night. All right, we'll move on then in the agenda to citizens to be heard. And Becky, I have no blue cards, is that right?
None.
Okay. We'll move on then to old business, and we do have a number of items to report out tonight. And the first is by Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would move now, as I did on October 22nd, 2018, that the Committee of the Whole recommend to the Village Board the acceptance of the downtown parking study and authorize staff to develop an implementation plan.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Tinaglia. Questions or comments from the board? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any update, Mr. Recklaus?
No, sir.
Okay. We move on then to the next item to be reported out from our meeting from earlier this evening, and I again call on Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would move now, as I did earlier this evening, to concur in the mayor's appointment of David Jaffe to the Special Events Commission with the term ending April 30th, 2021.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Tinaglia. Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, roll. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. David, if you come forward to the podium. And if you'd raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your full name,
I, David Jaffe,
having been appointed to the Special Events Commission
having been appointed to the Special Events Commission
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the County of Cook,
in the County of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
I will support the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office according to the best of my ability.
of the, of the commission to the best of my abilities.
Close enough.
Thank you.
It's the hardest thing you're going to have to do.
Thank you.
So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Come forward, David, if you would. I'm going to give you a village logo pin to wear proudly as a representative of this community, as all of the elected and appointed members do. And if you would take your oath over to the village clerk and sign it over there, we'd appreciate it. So congratulations again. All right.
Thank you, Dave.
Right, there's no other old business, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Are there any members of the board who wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Any members of the audience who wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, any members of the board who wish to vote no or pass on any item on the consent agenda?
Move approval. Second.
Motion to approve by trustee Glasgow, seconded by trustee LaBedz. Anything further from the board or the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
President Hayes?
Yes. Move on then to new business, and we do have 3 items to consider tonight, and we apologize for the delay in taking up these items. We did have a power outage a couple of weeks ago that forced us to continue these items, so we appreciate your patience, and thank you for coming tonight. The first item is amendment to the land use variation ordinance for 1104 South Arlington Heights Road. Is the petitioner present? Come forward if you would. If you just introduce yourself for the record, please.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. My name is Patrick Brank, and I'm a partner at the law firm of Shane Banks. Also with me is Jill Lindsay, who's the president of the petitioner before you this evening.
Okay. Please proceed.
Thank you. We're before you this evening seeking an amendment to a 2007 ordinance that contained a provision that limited the entitlement in that ordinance to the People's Bank of Arlington Heights. That ordinance was transferred by merger to First Midwest Bank and was not required to seek any relief at that time because of the effect of the merger. What my client is seeking to do this evening is, as the contract purchaser for the property at 1104 South Arlington Heights Road, strike the condition from that ordinance that limited the entitlement to the People's Bank so that my client's business could operate at that facility. And I'll turn it over to Jill in just a minute, but it's a good news story. It's a local business that started here in Arlington Heights that's looking to expand and stay in Arlington Heights. And I'll turn it over to Jill for that.
Thank you. AAEC Credit Union was started in Arlington Heights in 1955 by a group of educators, and we have served the financial needs of the educational community since that time. We offer all sorts of accounts, savings accounts, checking accounts, loans for all sorts of reasons, and we are a nonprofit, so that makes us a little bit different than banks. Everything that we earn, we turn back over to our members in the form of either better rates or increased services. We've been growing and looking to expand, and we were so excited when this property became available because we would like to remain in Arlington Heights and continue serving this community. We would like to be able to offer our members things like an ATM, safe deposit boxes, and drive-through, specifically why we're here tonight. So that's who we are basically and what we're looking to do. We also just recently received permission from the state of Illinois to expand our charter so that we would be able to offer services not only to the educational community, but also the community at large. So since we have had several people who are patrons of First Midwest Bank call us and say would like to continue having our safe deposit boxes there, things like that. Would we be able to join? This will enable us to address those concerns as well. So thank you very much. Appreciate your consideration.
Thank you.
And so from a land use perspective, based upon the description of the business, it's very similar to the existing. So from the general public perspective, I would submit that they wouldn't be able to see a difference in operations. And there's a condition in the ordinance about some landscape improvements that need to be replaced that we agree with as well. So we would respectfully request your consideration and approval tonight.
Okay, thank you. Does the staff have anything to add before we go to the board?
Just that staff and Plan Commission recommend modification of the ordinance to allow this use to occupy the building. So we're very supportive of the proposal.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Perkins. Trustee Scaletta.
So I was very disappointed when First Midwest announced that they were closing that branch on the south side. It is a great location for a bank, and so I'm pleased that you guys stepped forward. It would be a shame to see such a well-designed building on the south side of Arlington Heights sit vacant for too long. So I'm really pleased that you've come forward, and you'll be serving all the educators in Arlington Heights and the surrounding suburbs. So I think that's pretty exciting and a win-win. This hasn't come up in the past, but can I ask staff, and I'm not sure who to direct this to, so I'll start out with Mr. Recklouse. When a nonprofit purchases a building like this, are there property taxes that are still paid?
Generally, no.
I believe that we will be paying property taxes. We're not a charitable organization.
Jill, you have
a
to talk in the mic.
nonprofit.
Speak into the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. My understanding was that we would be paying property taxes because we're not a charitable organization, we're a nonprofit. However, I'm certainly not an expert on
I like
this.
your answer best.
and I was going to say, and I like your version very much, so, but.
Okay, staff will get back to us on that. I would move to, well, I'll wait to hear from my colleagues first.
Anything further on this?
Ready to second your motion.
Okay. I would move to concur with the Plan Commission.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Tinaglia. Anything further from the board?
I'd like to see them pay taxes.
And one other comment. I'm glad that you're going to be a community-based credit union, too. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
We have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's go ahead and, if we could, take the ordinance out of order. So legal 13A. Can we have a motion to take that out of order now?
So moved.
Second.
By Trustee Glasgow, seconded by Trustee LaBedz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we need a motion to approve the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
By Trustee Glasgow, seconded by Trustee LaBedz. Any further discussion on the ordinance? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
President Hayes?
Yes. Well, congratulations. Good luck to you.
Thank you all very much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is a preliminary plat of subdivision and variation request for 608 to 614 North Haddow Avenue here in Arlington Heights. Is the petitioner present? Come forward if you would, and just introduce yourselves for the record.
My name is Bob Flubacher of Robert Flubacher Architects.
And Terry Kurzensky, homeowner at 614 North Haddow.
Why don't you go ahead and proceed and tell us what you're looking to do here.
We have a couple of pieces of property that are on Haddow side by side. The lot to the south has, through at least one zoning board of appeals meeting, been determined to be a non-buildable lot due to some of the zoning ordinance requirements as far as width and consistency with width of the other lots on the block. My client owns that lot, and we're hoping to consolidate the two pieces of property to enlarge his home and build a more practical structure rather than enlarging it to the rear of the existing house, which we had come to Plan Commission with several years ago. So in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Okay. Nothing further to add at this point?
I need a garage, and so it's the most practical place to put it, to attach it, was on the south side.
Anything from the staff?
Just staff recommended approval of the proposal, as did the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission did make one change The Staff Development Committee was recommending that the sidewalk be installed along the frontage of these two lots, which will be consolidated into one lot with this action. The Plan Commission recommended accepting an estoppel agreement that the property owner would not object to a future special assessment in this area. But if you look at the block, we looked at the recommendation after Plan Commission. The area highlighted in yellow is where the proposed sidewalk would be. There's only 2 other lots north of this that do not have a sidewalk in this block. The likelihood of a special assessment in this area for just 3 lots for a sidewalk is pretty slim or remote. So therefore, the only way the sidewalk would most likely be installed would be if the village were to pay for it out of its general fund or capital improvement fund, unless it was part of this proposal. So Staff Development Committee continues to recommend that the sidewalk be installed as part of this. If the lot to the north seeks some type of approval that triggers a sidewalk, that would get installed, and then that would only leave the northern corner lot right at the top of the slide here that didn't have a sidewalk. Other than that, staff and Plan Commission recommended approval of the consolidation.
All right, thanks, Charles. Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I assume the petitioner's in concurrence with all the recommendations by the Plan Commission?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, except for the sidewalk.
Right. Just a question, has there been any issue in the past as far as any kind of water or, flooding or anything in that area?
I don't know.
There's not a standing water or any kind of flooding situation on the property today. The natural configuration of the land in that area, they take a lot of water from the west, from the lots on the west to carry through the property, but we've addressed that in the drainage of the south side of the property to get that to go to the street.
Okay. Because I noticed you're paying obviously a fee in lieu of detention, so I was just curious if there was any past issues or anything. Charles, are we aware of anything that?
Just the requirement for the fee in lieu of was raised by the engineering division. We've not been made aware of any flooding problems in this area.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further from the board? Trustee Tinaglia.
Charles, is there a reason that this petitioner would have difficulty putting this sidewalk in? Is it conflicting with the design or anything?
No, it's originally shown on their plan. I think I have a... Yeah, this is their plan that shows the sidewalk superimposed on the aerial. It was originally proposed. They objected to installing the sidewalk at the Plan Commission hearing and were seeking a variation to not install it.
Bob, is there a reason that we don't want to put the sidewalk in?
Well, it's just the nature of the land, the way it exists today. It's, more charming, if you will, or whatever, without the sidewalk in the front. The missing properties that currently don't have the sidewalk would make it just a little bit of an extension of a sidewalk that goes nowhere. So it's really our opinion, and I think it'll look better on the street front to not have that sidewalk there.
Okay, I understand that. Charles, can you go back to the overall slide of that neighborhood? To the north of you is a little house and another lot, a large lot. This project has nothing to do with that, right?
No.
It's a separate owner who owns that little house and the lot south?
That's correct.
So it would occur to me, it would make sense to me that someday, maybe not tomorrow and maybe not next year, but that property looks ripe for redevelopment, especially after you do what you're going to do. You're doing a wonderful big project here. And I think it would just make sense. I'd hate to be that guy that says you need to put your sidewalk in, but I think it makes sense to do now. And then when whoever does that project to your north does theirs, they'll all be connected other than the corner lot. So I would
The corner lot will never have one, though.
No, I'm saying it'll all be connected other than that corner one.
Yeah.
So I'd be an advocate of just getting it done and being done with it. There are an awful lot of people that walk on these streets, especially during Frontier Days, and forcing them to walk in the street or on the other side of the street, I guess. I just would rather see it done, but that's just my opinion.
If I could clarify a little bit what happened at the Plan Commission. The estoppel agreement was an idea that came out of the Plan Commission members or the staff that night. Basically, our position was if the lot to the north does put in their sidewalk, we'd be happy to put in this sidewalk. And I think what evolved out of that was some sort of enforcement mechanism for that.
Do you want to tear up your yard several years again after you're all done and nice and neat just because the guy next door does his, or would you rather just be done?
Well, I think, I don't want to speak for my client, but I think he liked the years that there wasn't a sidewalk there. Just as an aside, there have been conversations between my client and that property owner also buying. The property to the north is the same situation as these two lots. It's two 66-foot lots. And they have conversed in the past about potentially buying that lot as well.
Trustee Scaletta.
Why did you put the sidewalk on the plans?
Because it came out of the engineering department plan review for us to get into the plan commission meeting. So rather than establish a big objection that was written out, we chose to put it on the plan and then discuss it at the plan commission meeting.
Okay, so it wasn't like it was your idea, you put it on the plans, and now that the plan commission was trying to require you to do it, that you said, no, we don't want to do it.
Right. There were actually two issues that we discussed at the meeting. One was putting in the public sidewalk, and the second was the fee in lieu of detention, which as an architect I find strange that if these lots were developed as individual lots, there would not be any detention required, but consolidating the lots to a single lot trips a mechanism where we now have to pay a fee for detention.
I'm only one, I'm okay with the deferring it, the sidewalk, but, and I think we had this situation once before up north, where we were trying to make people put in sidewalks and they don't go anywhere. I mean, I can appreciate your opinion of, of trying to get further and further, but at some point, we got to come up with a better plan as a village. I mean, because we keep trying to get this done and then we just stop. We're like in the middle of the block, and then where do you go?
And logistically, if the sidewalk were in place, it would be kind of strange because the area you're looking at has their driveway on the north side of the property, but after redevelopment, the driveway will be on the south side of the property. So if somebody is walking on that sidewalk and they get to the end where they realize it stops, they now have to walk back virtually the entire lot to get back to a driveway that gets them to where they can go across the street to the sidewalk on the other side.
Which, actually, if you can just bear with me for a second on this. So, staff, we over the years, we've replaced all of these cuts at the end of the streets and had to put in the special plates, I'll call them. So, what do you do in this situation? Let's say that we force them to put in this sidewalk. You get to the end, you have to put a plate there to signal that you now need to hang a right, and then you got to put a plate there because you're entering into the street.
Well, we wouldn't want them to cross the street there, where that sidewalk ends. We'd want them to cross it at the corner where the ramps would be.
So how do you know if you're traveling in that direction?
And you're visually impaired?
And you're visually impaired.
You don't. We'd want them to walk on the other, to be honest, we'd want them to walk on the other side of the street where there's full sidewalk.
You know how you do that? You don't make these people put in a sidewalk in front of their house.
Not disagreeing with you.
Yeah, just to lay out the concept is we're trying to fill in all these gaps, and sometimes you have to do it one development at a time. And there may be situations where the block would develop block by block, and eventually you would get there. And there's times where it may not play out that way. And I think that's why sometimes this stuff doesn't go exactly to policy.
So correct me if I'm wrong. The house on the corner to the north is a new home, right?
Yes.
It's a remodel.
Well, right, but I mean, it's been updated.
It's updated, and it's not going to change for the near future as long as I'm at my house. The topography is such too. If you see it, it's nearly impossible to put in a sidewalk at that corner, at that northern corner. It's 3 to 4 feet up and a steep embankment. So it's, I don't see there's any way to put without completely tearing up that entire residence.
And by the way, any action, getting a building permit or zoning variation or anything would not trip that requirement of putting a sidewalk in. It would only be some sort of plan commission action that would flip the requirement for the sidewalk.
So if we did actually continue it, and the property just to the north of me continued, and you got people that come to the end of the property, now to the corner one, there is a very steep, dangerous embankment, I think, that people are gonna try to navigate once they get to the end of that sidewalk, and never, ever complete that sidewalk unless the city wants to pay for it. That's my opinion. You can see that it's, I mean, I don't attempt to walk on their grass because it's at an angle.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Sidor.
Thank you, Mayor. So Charles, the house that's to the north, you got the vacant lot to the north, and you got the, what appears from the aerial, a newer house north of that with a sidewalk to nowhere on both sides, am I correct?
That's correct.
Did we, I'm just looking for consistency of, government here. Did we require that house? Because you've been here forever, so you probably know. Did we require that house to put that sidewalk in as well when they remodeled?
Yeah,
I mean, I would imagine that's the only reason it's there.
Correct.
Yeah, I can't answer the specifics on that particular lot. There is the village sidewalk policy that calls for a sidewalk when there's a new subdivision, and the subdivision code calls for it. The challenge in this case is, the recommendation of the estoppel isn't going to, get the situation done in the future, because there's probably not going to be an estoppel for 3 lots. It's too complex. A special service area for 3 lots. But exactly how that lot got their sidewalk, I don't know.
And interestingly, the photograph that you have on the screen, if you look one block to the left on the photograph, you see the same situation.
Yeah, I did see that.
I suspect over time the sidewalk policy may have changed. There was a large multi-hearing discussion on sidewalks going back a decade or more, and there was a whole issue of filling in the gaps in neighborhoods like this where you've got some sidewalks, and my guess is the policy may have changed as a result of some of those meetings, and so at one point it might have been required when any homeowner came in for a building permit, and then it was changed. I'm not 100% sure, but that's possibly what happened.
Okay, so my last question then is, let's just say the village says, you know what, we're putting in a sidewalk. We're going to fill in all the gaps. And the petitioner, the owner, is claiming there's an embankment. I'm not familiar with that corner, that you have to rappel down because it's very steep. I'm just teasing. Our engineering department would somehow, design a sidewalk that would be handicap, ADA compliant, correct?
Well, assuming that was doable.
I'm sorry?
Assuming that they could, there's probably a possibility that it would really make a significant change to the land and you couldn't do it.
We do have circumstances, other places in town where there are retaining walls and
Right.
other things that we've put into effect to make it ADA compliant.
Right, that's my point, is that it is possible.
Certainly.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Anything further? Trustee Scaletta.
So, is there a way to phrase this so that it wouldn't necessarily have to be an SSA, but that if the village continued on with the block, with the sidewalk, that the petitioner would cover the cost for his portion?
Sure. Instead of referencing there's a couple ways to do it.
I don't even know that I like my own idea, but now it's just, there has to be some kind of fairness to what we're doing, and the consolidation is really just so that he can be able to build on his property. So I withdraw my question. I don't like it.
Okay.
Anything further from the board? All right, Trustee Tinaglia.
I absolutely understand this petitioner's pain on this. I get it. I deal with this enough on my own. As a village board member and as someone who understands Charles' side of the table as well, the difficulty I think that we have here is you have to start somewhere. And either we're doing sidewalks or not doing sidewalks. They're either important or they're not. And you're going to be, in this project, if you go back to that slide of the project where it showed the footprint of the, I mean, it's a pretty substantial addition. I don't know if it's doubling the size of the house, but it's a pretty good sized project. It's not like he's just putting a detached garage in the back or a simple garage attachment to his house. It's a pretty good size. Does it make sense to add this sidewalk in now, or doesn't it? I guess that's really the question. Do we want sidewalks on these blocks, or don't we? Because if we do, then now's the time to do it, in my opinion.
Well, again, I would reiterate that we're more than happy to put the sidewalk in when the property to the north puts theirs in.
Right, I heard you.
And the condition could be changed. I mean, the Plan Commission's recommendation was for an estoppel agreement related to a special assessment. The condition could be changed that they'll have to put the sidewalk in if and when the property to the north is developed and they're required to put a sidewalk in. I don't know if there's something that would cause that property. Is it one lot or two? Property to the north.
Yeah, I don't, it's 2 lots, but I don't know whether it's under one ownership. It sounds like it is.
It's the same situation.
And
Right,
It would,
so
depend, it would depend what action they were
Correct.
requesting, whether they would be required to install it or not.
Because unless they came in to do essentially what this petitioner is doing, consolidate the lots, there wouldn't necessarily be anything that would cause the village to be able to require them to put the sidewalk in.
So let me ask this real quickly. If it's 2 lots right now, and the owner, the project to the north, not your project, and the owner decided to sell one of them and build a smaller house on that and just remodel
Correct.
the little house, and there's no plot of consolidation, there's no public hearing.
Correct.
There's just going in and getting permits,
There's no requirement then. The sidewalk
and they don't
requirement.
have to add the sidewalk.
Right, the sidewalk requirement arose here because the consolidation falls under the
Because he's
subdivision
building
code.
over the line, and
Because
he's
it falls under the
consolidating both
subdivision
lots.
code.
Right.
It's a requirement in the subdivision code.
That lot, though, is also considered non-buildable because of its size. So it's only buildable from me or that neighbor.
Is it the same exact situation,
exact
size-wise?
situation as
What is
mine.
the dimension of that lot?
66 feet.
See, because yours, I was around,
Non-conforming to the-
I was around when that lot got divided.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I mean, it may be a little different than you know, because that lot was divided from itself. You're trying to put it back to where it was originally. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, those 3 lots were a part of the same
Yeah.
estate, I understand.
And it was subdivided with the intention of building a separate house on it. And it didn't happen because this board and the Plan Commission said no, because it was undersized.
Right.
So that project failed, and it sat all this time doing nothing until you bought it. I don't know that the same exact situation happened on the other side of that.
Well, the size is the same as mine, and
But if it wasn't subdivided, if it was always that lot, he can build it. He cut that piece of property. Your piece of property was cut off of itself, so to speak.
yeah, well, I had looked at buying that lot, and it had the same situation. So we actually had an appraisal of that lot, and it's not appraised. The appraiser called the city to find out if it was buildable as a separate lot to see the value of that lot. And because it was not buildable as a separate lot, it got appraised at a very small value as an attached land to the house to the north.
Okay. I'm not so sure I buy all that exactly, only because I remember it very, very well. Charles, maybe you remember it too, how it all went down?
Well, the code is very complex, so it depends when the property owner owned the lot. If they owned both lots prior to, I think it's 1959, then it might be buildable. If it was owned together after that, it wouldn't be. And then if it was owned after 2003 and they want to build on both lots as one lot, then it triggers a consolidation. So there's a series of dates and trigger points. So without doing research on it, I can't tell you exactly what would or wouldn't be required on that lot to the north. We can certainly look at that and report back.
I think it's just dialogue right now. It's no big deal. I think I'm done with what I said.
Anything further from the board? Well, I tend to concur with the Plan Commission recommendation. I understand the petitioner's arguments for not putting in the sidewalk at this time, and I am in agreement with condition number 5 that they would not be able to object to having to install a sidewalk sometime down the road when the rest of the sidewalks are in place. So I would concur with the Plan Commission.
The condition, that's not the condition right now. The condition is that they would sign an estoppel agreement, which would get recorded against the property, so that if the village ever put in the sidewalk pursuant to a special assessment, they couldn't object to the special assessment.
Right, okay. All right, what's the will of the board?
That's very different than what you just explained,
Okay.
though.
Correct.
Tell us again what it means,
Okay.
Robin.
Well, so the condition that the Plan Commission added says, requires the petitioner to enter into an estoppel agreement, which we have lots of, essentially saying that they would not object if the village decided to put in the sidewalk and they went through the special assessment process to do it. This petitioner agrees to not object to a special assessment for the sidewalk, but that's the village putting in the sidewalk.
Yeah, go ahead.
So a special service area has to be created.
Special assessment, not
Sorry,
a special service
assessment.
area.
So it has to be developed and created, which for something of the magnitude of this
Not likely to
area
happen.
is something that's unlikely.
Correct.
Correct. I suppose there's a possibility that the area could be bigger because the sidewalk situation occurs on the block across, behind it. But yeah, as a general rule, we would not look at doing a special assessment for something essentially 3 houses.
If I could, you could keep the wording of the motion the same and say, or if the property to the north puts in a sidewalk, and that would address both issues.
I have no problem with that.
Okay. Anyone willing to make a motion to that effect?
So I'd move to concur in the Plan Commission's recommendation and add that if the properties to the north install sidewalks, that the petitioner will install a sidewalk in front of his entire property.
Install the sidewalk at such time that the lot to the north is developed and sidewalk is required to be installed.
Yes.
Sidewalk is installed.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually,
By Trustee Scaletta.
if I could, I actually prefer that I install versus the special assessment, concept, so.
But my understanding of
I
the
don't think
motion
you'll
is
get to
that,
the assessment part.
I don't either.
Okay.
Both of them. Either one of those.
It's going to be
could
either
happen,
or,
right.
but I don't think you'll get there.
I got you.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Blackwood. Any further discussion? Anything from the audience? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
All right, finally, under new business, we have a final plat of subdivision for 703 to 709 and 715 to 723 West Algonquin Road. Petitioner present? Are they? Just introduce yourself if you would.
Hello, Mike Waterleck with Hamilton Partners. I'm with the developer.
Why don't you tell us what you're looking to do here?
So we're seeking the final plat of subdivision for a redevelopment of the property at the southeast corner of Meyer and Arlington Heights Road to build a 330,000 square foot distribution building. The property will be built in 2 phases. The first phase will be 150,000 square feet. And then finally, the second phase, once the southern building is vacated, will bring the total project to 330,000 square feet.
Anything to add from the staff?
No, both staff and Plan Commission recommended approval of the final plat. The board's previously approved the PUD and the preliminary plat of subdivision, so we'd recommend approval.
Anything from the board?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Trustee Tinaglia, seconded by Trustee LaBedz. Any further questions or comments? Anything from the audience? Trustee Rosenberg.
Charles, in this case, we've worked everything out with Rolling Meadows as far as the issue of Meyer Drive and everything that has to be done for this?
There's still, as far as this development, the developer has responded to all the technical questions and agreed with what Rolling Meadows is being asked for. With respect to Rolling Meadows' request that the village take over Meyer Drive, that is still an ongoing discussion.
Okay.
And we've just had a response from Rolling Meadows, and we're in the process of evaluating that and responding back again.
But you, as the petitioner, has complied with everything that Rolling Meadows is asking, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
as well as all other conditions.
thank you. I'd move approval.
We've already got a motion.
Oh, sorry.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no other new business, and we've already taken care of the legal item, so is there a report of the village manager other than the request for closed session?
Nothing this evening.
Okay. Anything from the board under petitions and communications? Trustee Sidor?
Mayor, maybe you'd like to say something about Election Day tomorrow.
Well, we do have, I think you, as everyone knows, we've had a very heavy early voting turnout. I think we probably set records here at Village Hall. I know the lines in the early voting places downtown Chicago today were just incredible. And so I know this is an election that people have a great deal of interest in, and rightfully so. So we would just encourage all to exercise their right as a citizen to vote, and we'll see what happens.
Well said.
Anything further from the board?
Move to adjourn.
Let's have Mr. Ecklaus, his report.
I would make a request for closed session per ILCS 120/2C21, discussion of minutes lawfully closed, whether for the purposes of approval of the minutes or the semi-annual review of the minutes. And 5 ILCS 120/2C1, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel.
Move to adjourn to closed session.
Motion by Trustee Glasgow.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Scaletta to go into closed session pursuant to the statutes enumerated. There is no discussion, so roll call.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
President Hayes?
Yes. We are adjourned into closed session and will not be reporting back out. Thank you for joining us this evening.